Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming. My name is Hollow and today I'm talking about a build meant for the endgame of Diablo 4 Season 3. That means farming duriel and then farming malphas, pretty much exclusively. Necromancers have had a bit of a weird experience in Season 3 so far. It is not looking great for us in terms of the power rankings compared to the other classes. And with the improvements to Bone Spirit, I recently covered what I've been running and testing with that so far. The result was this incredible mob clearer, insanely effective at clearing vaults in these awesome times. Every mob pack you just instantly kill no matter how big one Bone Spirit combo would clear it. My plans were to push this concept as far as I could take it, and when I went to check the comments of the Bone Spirit build video to see what people were thinking about it, I was surprised by what I saw. As it turns out, a lot of you don't seem to care about Bone Spirit, or at least mob clear right now. And that makes sense. What are you doing most of the time you're playing this game as a true endgame player? Well, by this point you should have your glyphs leveled, and you're probably just farming the unique construct stones and the uber uniques. So that means farming duriel and farming malphas, pretty much nothing else. This is even more important when we think about the upcoming gauntlet and leaderboard system, and that's going to be a problem if you don't have your uber uniques that create incredible power, like the new Starless Skies, or something simple like the insane DPS that the Grandfather provides. What if you don't have the unique stones for your construct, hugely improving your power in a different way? Even if you're playing really well, you're not going to compete on that leaderboard with people who do have these things. So you're farming duriel and malphas. You want that to be as strong and as efficient as possible. The truth is, Bone Spirit is just not the play for that. While Bone Spirit hits hard, say 10 mil a pop, you can only do it like twice before a small period to recover to do it again. And we just look at the other classes like Sorceress with the ridiculous DPS they have. Barbarians and Rogues are literally one-shotting these bosses. Druids are even doing work. Bone Spirit is not hitting hard enough to compete. So that brings us to a build that can compete. My maximum boss killer build for Necromancer in Season 3 as of right now. It is Bone Spear, but maximized to have the highest consistent DPS in a boss fight. I've got Paragon changes, reordering of the main aspects, a unique consideration for you, and two main setups for the Construct Stones. This smashes bosses the best we possibly can right now, which as you can see is dumpstering them. You know, if it wasn't for that annoying duriel charge that causes you to be stunned for a moment, I could kill duriel no problem before he phases, even once below the ground. If I was any other class, I'd probably have a reliable source of unstoppable to make that happen, but ours, Blood Mist, just CCs us, so it's not worth it. I would be showing you me chewing through malphas like it's nothing, since he's just a perfect target dummy, standing there with no CC mechanics or no damage immune phases. But with the patch today, we're DCing whenever we try to enter the portals in the Uber Vault, so I'm literally not able to get that footage. On the other hand, Uber Lilith isn't just doable, you destroy her health before she starts doing any of those pesky mechanics, like the waves beyond the first, which you can't stop. Though there is a major issue with Uber Lilith if you are a Necromancer, with them buffing out the Ballista missiles mechanic. Even if you kill her before she does anything, it's still gonna do that. That means you're still gonna be having to deal with these missiles in the second half of phase 2 that will one-shot you if they hit you. And with our pathetic lack of movement speed and the 20-second cooldown Blood Mist, the lack of utility for this type of problem, you're basically screwed. I'm dying because eventually they just catch up with me. The only way I see to be able to do this is to run the slaughter aspect that provides the movement speed to avoid these while you don't get hit for a while. It's like our only option. So classic Necromancer fun in Diablo 4. I am praying that Season 4 is going to be our season. Outside of bosses, obviously it's going to destroy any other content like a vault or a nightmare dungeon, high tier, whatever. You got the survivability and you certainly have the raw damage to kill everything instantly and from far away if you want. So this is the powerhouse endgame Necromancer build that you were asking for. With all that said, let's explain the build. Starting with the skill tree, which I'll be quick on. We pick up Bone Splinters as our basic, which we'll essentially never use, but if you're desperate for Essence Gen, you can rely on it, but we don't want to waste the points on it other than the 2 points we have to. Maxing out Bone Spear and taking Supernatural because we no longer have the reliability of the splintering aspect, as it's been fully fixed. In single target, this is not going to generate vulnerable on your Bone Spear anymore. It has to pass through one target and hit a second to apply vulnerable, which means we cannot comfortably run Paranormal. We need to be running Supernatural, so we always have vulnerable. Aside, 3 out of 3 on Hued Flesh to generate the corpses, maxing Unliving Energy and Imperfectly Balanced as usual. On our next tree, we're taking 1 point in Blood Mist and going to Ghastly to give us a guarantee way to spawn corpses. Important for our Paragon, we do not need the crit of Dreadful. Corpse Explosion is going to be a massive source of damage for us, but not the actual corpse explosion itself, just the effects that occur when we use it. So a single point into that, maxing out Grim Harvest for the Essence Gen and Fueled by Death for the damage buff after consuming consuming a corpse with a corpse explosion. On the next tree, we max out Death's Embrace for close damage and DR, and then also Death's Reach for far damage. On the next tree, we have 1 leveling corpse tendrils to Plague for the vulnerable. If you're doing mob clear, you could consider Blighted just for some extra healing if you want it. On the bone passives, it's full Serration, Compound Fracture, and Evulsion as you should expect. On the ultimate tree, it's Bone Storm, Standalone, and Memento Mori to their full, with the key passive of Ossified Essence as usual. Then you've got 2 points left over for the whole build. I put them into Inspiring Leader just to give me some extra attack speed, which helps me send out Bone Spears faster. For the Book of the Dead, we have the usual Skirmish Sacrifice for the crit strike chance, Skeletal Mages on Cold for the vulnerable damage increase, and Golem on Iron for the extra crit strike damage as usual. When it comes to the Paragon, I've made a lot of choices that are very intentional. We'll explain them as we go, but here's a quick look at each board and the ordering of it, just so you can pause if you really want to. This is the starting board. You will notice I'm not taking the armor nodes, and that is for a very intentional reason. I'll explain during the gear section. Our first glyph is Gravekeeper, specifically placed here for a good reason. Gravekeeper's main effect is that you deal up to 12% times extra damage for every close corpse. So as you deal damage, spawn more corpses, blood mist, spawn more corpses, you're getting a big damage bonus. The other effect is the fact that it grants a 95% bonus to all rare nodes at level 15. So it's nearly doubling the effect of the rare nodes. That means that knowledge here, instead of providing 20% damage, is providing 39% damage, which is massive. And also, yeah, I'm getting double the armor on preservation. I come down and pick up resilience just to get some extra resistance to all elements and max life and get those nodes as well. We come to a second board, which as you should expect is Bone Graft. We enter from the bottom and come up to the left to get Corporeal, another very intentionally placed glyph. Corporeal gives you 114% bonus to all magic nodes within range. The magic nodes around here are specifically bone skill ones that I care about, so we're doubling the effect of that and then some. So it's placed here for the maximum DPS of that effect. Also, yeah, it's going to give me extra resistance to all elements, which is quite nice. I only need to reach 40 intelligence on the dot, so that's how I do it around the glyph. Otherwise, it's the usual, coming up to Calcified and the other nodes, as well as Reinvigorate and the other nodes. We come pick up Entomb, making sure to grab the extra crit strike damage with bone skills. We don't care about the potion healing, obviously the legendary node, and then it's time to come to the next board, where I come to the left. The third board is Scent of Death. No corpses means extra damage, 2 corpses means damage reduction, pretty much always in effect in some useful way. I make my way through Ruin to pick up all the nodes around that, getting Scent of Death, and coming to the glyph, which is Exploit, which is increasing our damage when dealing damage to vulnerable enemies, which we're always doing, and also improving our vulnerable damage. I also, of course, pick up Death Marked, and the main nodes to care about here are the ones that are going to increase your damage to injured enemies. When you're dealing damage to a boss, it's going to be injured at the end of the fight, and this is just going to enhance your DPS once it hits that point. With that and all the dex nodes grabbed, we work our way up to the next board, picking up Corrective on the way for the extra critical strike damage that this provides and the 3 magic nodes on the way. Up to our next board, we have, of course, Flesh Eater for the major DPS increase this will give us. When I'm doing Uber Lilith or other bosses that actually have a period where I'm just kind of standing and waiting for the boss to come back, timing Flesh Eater for them to come back is very important. It's a 40% times increased damage for 6 seconds. It's absolutely nuts. All right, so I enter the board and go through Stifle, making sure to pick up the critical strike nodes on the way, grabbing Flesh Eater and coming to the glyph, which is Sacrificial. This gives us a straight 10% times increased damage when we have no minions, but it also gives us another 114% bonus to all magic nodes within range. This is put on this board just because it gives me some bonuses like extra damage to elites and also extra resistance to all elements to get us towards the cap. And as it only requires 40 intelligence to get active and extra points mean nothing, we only spend the minimal, as you can see, which saves me some points so I can still come over to color and get the attack speed bonus that this provides. Better attack speed means faster bone spear uses. Then we come left to our final board, which is still Bloodbath, just as a nice board for a quick glyph socket. None of the stuff really matters except for what's actually on the board, and this is loads of dex options, which is great for our final glyph, Essence, which we get to 49 dexterity around the glyph. This provides critical strike damage and even more crit strike damage to those that are not healthy, such as a boss we're mid-fight with. Between Essence and Exploit, I want to maximize Essence most of all, and so that's why I put it here. And yeah, that's the Paragon. The main change is the Gravekeeper glyph, as explained, a reduction on armor in the Paragon since I don't need it, and making sure that I have nodes that are going to help me specifically deal damage to bosses most of all. Next up, we have the Construct, Flash of Adrenaline and Tempest. For Flash of Adrenaline and supporting it with tactical support to reduce the cooldown so that it's active pretty much the whole time. The cooldown is 12 seconds, it lasts 12 seconds, I always have it. That's a 20% times damage increase, that's incredible. Duration support is enhancing how long it lasts, so it always lasts, and Safeguards just providing me that nice DR as an extra benefit. If I actually had the unique stones, which seem to never drop for me, I've killed him over 60 times, I would be running Genesis to enhance the effectiveness of Flash of Adrenaline. On the other one, we're still running Tempest, and for single target, I'm running Swift support, so that it's got better attack speed, so it's spamming the Tempest out, Efficiency, so that I'm able to get extra crit strike chance, and Resource support for the massive resource regen this provides. If you were mob clearing, you'd want to run Arcing instead of Swift, and if you had the unique stone Evernight, I would place that over Efficiency support in single target. Unless you don't have enough crit strike chance, then I put it over Swift support. Next up, we have the all-important gear. Still running the Deathless Visage. It's a major DPS increase for Bone Spear specifically. For our defensive chest piece, I'm running Shielding Storm, meaning I've just got that extra barrier while I am using Bone Storm. However, on the legs, I'm running Juggernauts. This is giving me 6k extra armor, which if we look here, I'm standing out of a combat zone at 6.7 armor. In a combat zone, we're almost up to 14k. I don't actually need this. At 12.5, I've got more than enough for everything in the game currently, as there is no challenge. Any number higher than that doesn't really do anything. So I don't need to run Disobedience. Juggernauts does the job immediately. With that in mind, I might suggest Tybalt's Will on the legs. 40% times increased damage while unstoppable and for 4 seconds after, and then every time you do that, you get 50 essence back. Every other class has a reliable way to get unstoppable without CCing themselves and losing DPS, but we don't. All we have is Blood Mist. So if you were to run this, you could press Blood Mist every 20 seconds and give yourself that big Tybalt's Will damage buff. It'll only last 4 seconds, but technically it'll be more DPS than this. You won't be pressing Blood Mist on cooldown though. It'll pretty much be just at the start of the fight as you set up and spawn some corpses. Still, it's a way to increase your damage even further than what I'm wearing, so you'd move Juggernauts to your chest piece instead. But this is obviously super overkill for everything in the game right now. We kill everything really easy. For the gloves, it's Serration still. On the boots, I've got Wind Striker. As I said in the intro though, I would recommend the Slaughter aspect if you're specifically trying to beat Uber Lilith, so that you have the movement speed to actually avoid our missiles. Necromancer otherwise just doesn't. On the specifically two-hand sword for the critical strike damage that provides, we still have Splintering at its max roll, 120% increased damage to enemies that are vulnerable since we pierce them with the splinters. On the amulet, we've got Grasping Veins, since we're going to be having Grasping Veins going as much as we can, using the unique ring Sacrilegious Soul to auto-trigger a tendril. With a top roll, that's every 8 seconds. This lasts 6 seconds. So in that period that you wouldn't have the damage buff, you intentionally pop another corpse tendrils to have uptime the whole time. For a boss fight, that means a constant 30% extra crit strike chance and 60% times increased critical strike damage. It's absolutely major, and making sure that you have that buff going always is a huge DPS increase, which is why I'm running Sacrilegious Soul in a single target build, and that's why Grasping Veins is on my amulet still. So it's really nice to still get the quality of life benefit of this ring. Finally, of course, still exposed flesh on the other ring to help us generate lots of essence and maintain high essence while DPSing, so that our key passive and Serration is maximizing our damage. The affixes are what they were before though. The main ones to make sure you have are on your gloves for ranks of Bone Spear and your amulet for ranks of Evulsion as the biggest DPS increasing passive. Outside of that, you're looking for a critical strike chance, maximum essence, crit strike damage, and resource generation of any kind. Resource generation on your rings, there's a % chance to generate essence on gloves. You might find it on your boots, wherever you can get it. Second to that, you're looking for vulnerable damage, core skill damage as fillers. Defensively, it's the usual stuff. Total armor, max life, damage reduction. And then specifics like damage reduction from distant and far enemies while fortified, while injured, and so on. For the gems, it's max health increase in your armor, critical strike damage to vulnerable enemies in the weapon, and up to you in the jewelry, whatever you're lacking on your resistances. For me, I'm able to reach 70% in everything except lightning and cold, which I'm just 5% below. This is intentionally done because I could get that by losing some DPS. But I don't want to lose DPS. If you're okay with slightly reducing your DPS, you could lose some important magic nodes and put them into the resistance to all elements. Though this completely depends on your setup and whether you have some extra resistance on like boots or something. But there you have it. That is my best single target build for Necromancer and boss killing specifically. I hope this was more of what you were looking for a Necromancer right now. I can assure you that this build is absolutely dumbstering bosses. And yeah, since that's pretty much the only thing that we're doing right now, I think you should be playing this. Personally, I've done over 60 plus malphas kills and I have still not got either unique tuning stone, so I'm pretty bitter. And I've also got no uber uniques as well. So hopefully you're more lucky than me. This is kind of what the endgame devolves into. And if you're up for this grind, yeah, this is just the build. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.